Hi there, this is Stargazer, and today I'm covering the developer's notes for Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard marked a major shift in the series, and the behind-the-scenes details are pretty fascinating. Here are some cool facts. Return to survival horror roots. Capcom intentionally shifted Resident Evil 7 Biohazard back to survival horror after the action-heavy approach of Resident Evil 5 and 6. They wanted a more personal and terrifying experience. Inspired by classic horror movies like The Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Evil Dead. First person's perspective. This was the first mainline RE game to use a first person's perspective, giving a much more immersive horror feel. Director Koshi Naganishi said the switch was partially influenced by the success of VR and the desire to make players feel trapped and vulnerable. Influence of real-life locations. The Baker family estate in Louisiana was inspired by real southern plantations and rural homes to give the unsettling authenticity. The development team visited southern US locations to capture the architecture, atmosphere, and lighting. Baker family dynamics. The family wasn't just monsters, they were given deeply disturbing backstories to make the horror more psychological. Motion capture actors for the Bakers lived in the same house-like set to interact naturally, giving them genuine chemistry and tension. VR compatibility. Capcom worked hard to make RE7 fully VR compatible, which amplified the horror. They redesigned some areas to make them more comfortable for VR players, avoiding nausea while still maintaining tension. Use of practical effects. Though mostly digital, the team used practical effects for textures and props during motion capture. Blood, decayed walls, and the grotesque molds on characters like Marguerite Baker were inspired by real-life molds and fungus to make them feel unsettlingly real. Ethan Winters. The protagonist, Ethan, was intentionally kept blank slate and silent so players could project themselves onto him. This was a big shift from previous RA protagonists like Chris Redfield or Leon Kennedy, who had strong personalities. Music and sound design. Horror in RE7 relied heavily on ambient sound, with subtle creaks, whispers, and the sound of footsteps creating tension. Composer Masami Ueda used a mix of digital and analog instruments to give the soundtrack an unsettling, raw feel. Hidden secrets. Capcom included numerous Easter eggs referencing previous RE games, like the Umbrella Corporation logo, the green herb, and nods to RE1 through 6 enemies and lore. Some creepy rooms and VHS tapes were even inspired by real-life horror short films. Thank you for watching, and remember, evil is only a word. The reality is much worse.